When high ticket sales go into a space of losing certainty, it is because you have made the client feel too comfortable. And that may sound strange because I'm a big advocate of you do not need to make somebody feel like shit to be able to sell your services, right? You can sell services like that, but people will come in because they feel like they need to be fixed. They feel like there's a massive gap that somehow miraculously you are just going to fix for them.
Welcome to Rich Work, the podcast for established female entrepreneurs ready to turn their expertise into premium clients and consistent high-ticket revenue. I'm Rachel Pearson, global brand and business strategist, skincare obsessed, and always distracted by booking the next mini break. Here you'll learn how to position like a luxury brand, attract clients who love to invest, and build wealth that actually lasts, so you can create the business and life you want, not someone else's version of success. This is where premium positioning and building wealth meet for women who are rewriting the rules. Let's get into it.
Last night, I went for dinner in London with somebody who I met in Dubai at the end of 2025. And when we met in Dubai, it was the first time that we'd ever spoken, and we were introduced by a mutual connection. And she lives in the States. Obviously, I live in the UK. And 6 months later, she got in touch, said, I'm in London, let's go for dinner. And we had the best conversation around what is changing in the industry. She's also a female entrepreneur, very successful. What is coming next? We talked about life, business, potential collaboration between both of us. We talked around things that we want to change in the industry and how we could do that together. It was a really beautiful conversation. And it's interesting timing because I'd already planned to do this podcast episode around what is it that means that you can have a conversation with somebody who you've not met before. This is what happened to me in Dubai last year. And then that conversation could potentially turn into a business opportunity, a collaboration. It can turn into a new client. It leads into something, right? It's not just a conversation where it was nice to meet you. Great, let's move on with our lives. And this happens for me a lot. I am really good at nurturing relationships. And I'm not going into this episode about how I've built my network. That is a whole separate episode. And actually, if you want to get into that right now, this is something that I have broken down inside the debrief, which is my free Telegram space. You can go into the link in the show notes. You can join that for free. But this episode is not about how to build that network, but there is a approach to creating certainty in conversations with potential clients, in conversations with potential collaborators, in conversations with any room that you go into, creating that certainty about who you are and the potential that somebody else sees in you is not by chance. And that is what we're going into in this episode, is how when you are selling at a premium level, and by selling, I don't just mean selling your offers, selling your services. I mean creating these opportunities where it could lead into an amazing opportunity that you haven't even considered, like going onto a TV show or being featured in the press or being introduced to somebody else who's going to really move your business forward. That is all sales to me, right? It's not like selling myself to that person, but I am positioning myself that they understand who I am and why they would want to talk about me, why they would introduce me, why they would want to think of me for future opportunities. That's what sales is to me as well. And it comes down to one thing, which I know is talked about a lot in the online space, which is certainty. And certainty is conviction in who you are. It is a feeling. It is a way of speaking about yourself. But in this episode, I'm going to break down what that means, what that looks like when you are talking about your services, when you are selling to a potential client. And stay with me till the end because I am sharing something that is directly related to this. If you are in London, then you will definitely want to know about this. And if you're not, then stay till the end for the show notes because there are prompts that are going to help you to go through this process yourself. I want to start with a question, which is, when did you last sign up to something yourself that was a stretch, a significant investment, or felt a level of discomfort for you because it was taking you into a new area, a high ticket program, maybe a premium service, a big investment? And the caveat here, or the thing that has to be for you to answer this question is you had to feel certainty. Before you even went into it, before you even started, you had to feel certainty about making that investment, making that decision. Not talked into it, not convinced by the sales page, just certainty in your body, no question that this was a thing that you were going to do. The last time that this happened for me is actually almost a year ago, which kind of tells you a bit about the way that the industry is right now, because I am a big investor in the online space. But the last time this happened for me was that I went to an in-person event and it was a very small room. I think there were about 7 of us. It was a PR event. It was an evening event with somebody who I didn't know. So I'd heard of her. We'd had a few DMs back and forward about this event, which I think at the price point of it was around £400. I went to this room. It was an evening dinner. It was a new format. So it was a format where she brought journalists into the room. We got to have dinner with them, ask questions, start conversation, understand what they're looking for. And it was a different format that I hadn't seen. And so I saw that that was a risk for her to do, right? It was a risk for her to go out and do that format. And following that event, I then decided to work with her one-to-one. And that was a 12-month commitment, multi-5 figures. So I went to an event, break it down, an event of somebody I didn't know personally. I spent £400 to be in that room. And I then very quickly invested multi-5 figures. And I did do my due diligence of looking at the offer and understanding what it included. But I'd already made my decision before I looked at that. I am the high ticket buyer that if you're listening to this podcast, I am probably your ideal client. And that came down to certainty in me, but of also the certainty that had been created by that space. The certainty that I felt in that room, not just by the conversation, but by the way it had been designed, the caliber of the people in it, the relationships that were being created, the intimacy of the format, the fact that she'd taken a risk with the whole thing. And all of that communicated to me the certainty that she felt in her skill set, in her expertise, in the level of client that she wanted to attract in. And this is what selling at a premium level really comes down to. It's not the process. It's not whether you're getting all of the wording right in your content. It's certainty that doesn't come from a framework. And this is something that we are going to see increasingly because frameworks can be created in 2 seconds through AI. You cannot rely on a perfectly step-by-step framework to sell what you do. At the lower ticket level, that is still working to a degree, but I think we're going to see a shift in that. And I see some of the big creators and coaches within the space who are saying, actually doing frameworks is not helpful for you. Putting you into a one-size-fits-all box is not helpful for you. I'm creating something bespoke. I'm seeing that happen, and I predict that that's going to happen more and more. So if it's not about the framework, then what is it? When you are selling, when you are in the space of high ticket sales, how do you sell naturally? This is what we're looking at in today's episode. So firstly, let's look at where most high ticket sales go wrong. And I say this with full recognition that this is what I have done in the past too. So it is coming from a place of, I've been there, I've done that, I have gotten many a t-shirt. When high ticket sales go into a space of losing certainty, it is because you have made the client feel too comfortable. And that may sound strange because I'm a big advocate of you do not need to make somebody feel like shit to be able to sell your services, right? You can sell services like that, but people will come in because they feel like they need to be fixed. They feel like there's a massive gap that somehow miraculously you are just going to fix for them. And that's when people feel like they haven't got what they paid for. They haven't been in the right space to be able to receive the offer. It is a place of lack, and I don't sell from that. However, I do sell from a place of discomfort, and I'm going to go into what that looks like. The problem when you sell high ticket from a place of pure comfort, as in, I understand where you are, I'm meeting you where you're at, is that you're mirroring back to somebody what they already believe about themselves. And so when you're holding space in that conversation, and we hear this phrase a lot in sales, like meet the client where they are, that feels like the right thing to do. like to care about somebody. But that level of comfort does not create the certainty that they need in order to move forward. Having that level of I see you where you are creates a peer-to-peer interaction. It creates a level of comfort of you validating that they can stay exactly where they are. And most premium sellers aren't in the business of making you feel good about where you are. The people that really, really understand high ticket sales aren't in the business of showing you who you are right now. They're in the business of showing you what you're not seeing about where you could be. And this is what I call a human first understanding in sales, but it is not about being soft in sales. It is not about being attentive in sales. This is about being human first. And human first to me means paying attention so specifically to that person that you see what they're avoiding and then you hold the mirror up to them anyway. It is the most supportive and empowering way to sell. And it's not comfortable to do that, but it is what creates certainty because a client then feels seen at a level that they didn't expect. And that feeling, when they feel that level of being seen, that creates certainty in them. They're reminded of how powerful they are. They are reminded of the choice that they have to choose something different. And that is what then naturally leads into a sale. That is where a high ticket sale feels like the most natural thing to do, even when it is probably one of the biggest investments that person has ever made. When you have a human first approach to high ticket sales, the sale sees the human, it does not see the money. And the money then follows. I cannot stress this highly enough because so often the way of that high ticket sales are being taught are you have to make the money come. Get your credit card out right now on the call. Why is it that you are not moving for what you want? You said that you want this, but you're deciding not to do it. Pressure. Because the money's coming first, not the human. So I want to come back to that event that I spoke about where I made that decision to take a multi-5-figure investment to pay that after being in a room for, I was probably there for 3 hours, if that, because I go home early, because I'm a mum of 2 and I like my sleep. There was something really specific about what happened there that is not talked about a lot, which is the environment that was created in that room. The room was at a standard before I even walked into it. And that came down to the number of people that were there. This doesn't always just need to work for small spaces, by the way, but you have to be really clear about who is in that room. If you're going to sell at a high ticket level, you have to have standards about who is in the room, even if it's larger numbers. It's not about filling the seat or being able to say my event sold out. There has to be standards about who's in that room. It was also about the certainty that she showed up to even create that event. So as I said before, the format was a risk for her. And I knew that. She didn't say it to me directly, but I saw that this was what other people weren't doing yet. And now I can already see that there are copies coming out, which is cool. Like you do something great, people want to copy it. But at that time, she went first. That creates certainty. Every single decision, where the venue was, the speakers that she brought in, the food that was served, that event communicated something about her standards that I knew meant that she was in a space where I could work with her really well. And when you're in a room like that, there was no hard pitch. If she'd pitched really hard about, come and work with me one-to-one, this is what we do, this is a price point, I would have been massively turned off then. Again, certainty and holding the space and holding the time, that knowing that that was not the right time in the room to pitch. That was the time in the room for me to come to my own conclusion based on what I'd seen, what I'd heard, what I felt like the relationship could be like. And then following it was when we went more into how can we work together. Certainty in the timing is super important. And this is where most premium sales, or those that are trying to sell premium, they don't understand that concept, that the high ticket sale isn't always in the pitch. It is in the decisions that you've made before the pitch, the space that you've created, the experience you've created, the people you've invited into it, the price point that you've held. That is the standard that is seen without you needing to put it into a pitch and tell everybody what it is that you expect from them and what it is going to be like to come into a next stage of working with you. As a high ticket buyer myself, I should be able to feel the standard of delivery, experience, results, transformation that I can expect from you, with you, before I even see the fine details of the offer. And I want to bring AI into this conversation as well, because what I've been talking about so far in this episode is about this human first way of building certainty, because you are holding a standard and holding a mirror up to other people in conversations, to potential clients in conversations that they don't necessarily see for themselves. And you are able to hold that even without the validation, right? Human first is the foundation, but that doesn't mean that we cannot leverage technology, that we cannot look at ways to scale our businesses through the platforms that are coming through, the amazing sophistication of AI. It doesn't mean that we have to choose between being human first or using technology. In my view, we integrate both. But here's what I believe needs to happen first. I think that most people are looking at AI as completely separate to this human first approach. And that is really damaging their opportunity for high ticket sales. The promise of AI in business is that it can scale your communication, it can sharpen your content, it can personalize your outreach, and that's all true. But what AI cannot do is it cannot create certainty if you have not done that work for yourself. If you have not understood how to sell at a human level first, how to hold discomfort in a conversation, how to hold a mirror up to other people that shows them opportunities they might not be thinking about, how to hold silence, how to hold space, how to create a environment where this sale is not about pitching. It is about you showing the standards that you hold, and then the pitch then becomes the invitation to come in. If you don't understand how to sell human to human first, AI is not going to fix that. And I've been on the receiving end of this a lot recently, and you may be feeling this too, where in my DMs, in my email inbox, it is very obviously AI pitching. And I don't mind about that. I don't mind if content comes in and I can tell that it's AI. That's okay with me. Like, I don't have an issue with that. I think that it is fundamentally AI is a way of creating efficiency in your business. What I do object to, and that gets my back up, is the way that the AI is being used is a really shitty pitch. It is a pitch which has very little understanding of my background, who I am. It doesn't ask open questions. If they do have an understanding or we have had an interaction before, it doesn't reflect anything back to me about what the opportunity could be next. Often these pitches are coming in and they are just talking purely at pain points, and they don't understand my pain points yet. They don't understand whether these are true or not. And that is the issue. It's not AI, it's that they actually don't know how to sell at a high level. And I'm seeing this from people who, when I go to their profile, they are people who have, I don't know all these people, but from their background saying that they've scaled businesses, they've sold businesses, they are inviting me into communities with people who are, in their view, top level entrepreneurs, where we can have conversations that are about the real understanding of business. And I'm like, do you see the disconnect here? Do you see the disconnect between what you are selling me, a community about high level entrepreneurship, where you are saying that I can access conversations that nobody else is having, but you are selling to me in a way that has no human connection, no human interaction at the beginning. That is not just a sales process that's broken down. That impacts how I see their brand. It impacts how I see their reputation. And it's certainly not going to be somebody that I'm going to engage with, even to understand what they do further. And so what we need to think about in high ticket sales is human first, very foundation, but if you're going to then use AI to create efficiency, you need to understand how to train your AI, how to talk to your AI as if it is being trained in your way of human first selling. So does your AI understand how to read what somebody is not saying? Can it see the gap between where that person thinks they are and where they actually are? Is it able to ask open questions? Is it able to understand subtext? Right? These are all the things where there is a heightened sophistication around what AI can do, but it is only able to do what you are enabling it to do. It is technology that comes from a human first model. It is picking up language, it is picking up ways of thinking, but it is picking up on mass. And so it's not that there is not an opportunity in high ticket sales for AI to come in, but if you don't have that human first understanding, then AI is going to turn your brand, your way of selling into mass market and is going to lose that human first connection, which is the very reason that your clients buy. It is going to lose the certainty that makes them go, I'm going to invest multi-five figures with you. So if this is a conversation that you want to be in, I am running a mastermind day into evening event on the 12th of June in central London. It is an intimate mastermind event. There are 15 people only, and we are going to be talking about what makes you irreplaceable in premium high ticket sales. The whole day is built around how do you create the kind of certainty that means that the high ticket sale becomes just a natural conversation. So going deeper into topics that I have spoken about in today's podcast episode, looking specifically at what does human first selling really look like? How do you create that in your business? Workshopping directly with me to look at how it is that you sell, how you have conversations. What are those subtle shifts that we can be making in your business from today? And we are also delving into how AI for your future of your business can amplify that human first approach. And I have an amazing speaker who is coming in who works directly and only within the luxury space. So she and her co-founder have worked with the luxury brands that you will all know of, household names, but also pioneering and spearheading how these brands are using luxury in their business. And she's going to be bringing in the insights of how brands at a very premium level that rely on creating human first experience, on making their customers, their clients feel like they are getting something very bespoke, but are doing it at scale. She's going to be sharing the insights of how these businesses are doing it so that you can bring this thinking into your business. This is not a conversation that I am seeing happen anywhere else specifically for high ticket, not just AI generally, but how this works in a high ticket premium space. We are running this event at the Haymarket Hotel, which is a super bougie, amazing hotel in Soho in London. And then it goes into a private dining event at Bubba Ricard in Soho, which is modeled on the Orient Express in their private dining room. It is going to be an incredible day. There are very limited spots remaining. The link is in the show notes if you would like to find out more. If you want to develop your human first sales approach, this is what to think about at an overall level. The first is stop treating your clients as a framework to move through, as a process to move through. Start responding to what they are not seeing. So instead of asking, where is this client in my framework, or like, what stage are they in my process? Start to really question, what is this client not saying? What are they avoiding? What do they already know, but they are not naming yet? If you have a methodology for your approach, if you have a framework for your approach, which I do as well, that still stays. But I want you to take it a level further now and look at, as clients move through these frameworks, as they move through your methodology, where are they getting stuck? Where are the bottlenecks? What do you see they are not saying? And rather than making that into a new module or into a new resource for them, I want you to think about, how are you bringing that into your sales process as well? Like, how are you holding a mirror up to clients, a mirror up to peers that you are talking to and saying, this is a conversation that's coming through with my clients right now. This is what we are doing in my spaces. Have you thought about this? These aren't just things that sit in your business, once a client moves in or once you have started an opportunity with somebody, a collaboration, this is something that I want you to start seeing. Bring this data out. Look at what's not being said. Look at where there are bottlenecks. Look at where your methodology is breaking down. And don't just create another module that sits in the back of your CRM or your portal. Bring that into sales conversations. This is the tension that I want you to start bringing up in sales and holding a mirror up to clients and creating that discomfort, that tension. This is how you create certainty at a premium level in your sales. This is how high ticket sales become natural, because at this level, clients are not looking for someone who makes them feel comfortable. And I'd even go as far to say they're not looking for somebody that makes them feel seen. They know who they are. They're just not able to articulate it or put it into practice or execute it. They're looking for someone who makes them feel certain. Certainty does not come from being seen at a level that they already play at. They need to be seen and held accountable at a level that they are holding off from saying is possible for them. That they see and they feel, they have this burning inside of, they know that this is what they are meant for, but they are avoiding articulating it because then it feels real. Then it feels like I've said it now, I have to do it. That's what you need to hold up to them. So here is your takeaway. If you want to take your high ticket sales to the next level, is there has to be certainty in what that high ticket client is buying, but they're not buying into your process, your methodology. They have to see that. I'm not saying take that off the table, but that's not ultimately what they're buying into. They buy into you, your way of thinking, your way of selling to them before the process has even started. So stop leading with your methodology and start holding up the mirror that makes them see what it is that they want, that then makes your methodology, your approach, seem the only way, the most logical way to do it. And hold that mirror up to them when it isn't comfortable, because that is when they feel really activated. I have this phrase of feeling called out to call up. You call somebody out, you hold them in that discomfort, but because it's the most human first, caring way to sell to somebody is you're calling them up into what you see is the potential in them that they can't articulate for themselves yet. In next week's episode, I'm going into something which directly connects to this, which is my wild card concept. It is the thing that makes you irreplaceable in your market. And you're probably sitting on it and thinking that by speaking about it is the risk, but this is the risk that you need to take, because once you start talking about this, your business can blow up. I have seen it so many times, I can't even tell you, I can't even count. That is next week on Rich Work. Make sure that you dive into the show notes to find out more about the event, the Mastermind event on the 12th of June in London, and also to get your download to give you prompts to work through today's episode. I will see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Rich Work. I'd love it if you left a review. It helps other women to find us. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at rachelpearson.co for a different take on premium positioning, one that's not about fitting a box. See you next week.